I thank Sri Hari, the Peace Conference, for giving me this opportunity to be able to share my thoughts in this Peace Conference, Peace and Reconciliation Conference of 2024. Uh, actually, it's a very complex topic in this current world. How can peace and justice, or justice and peace, or justice for peace be ensured in this complex corporate world while we chase maximizing returns? The whole purpose of an enterprise is to make profits, right? So it's a very conflicting at the same time, converging topic, and it's all depends on how we conduct ourselves culturally and how we behave in terms of the corporate world to be able to ensure justice for peace. I mean, it's a very difficult and it sounds very easy, but it's a very difficult when we want to implement this in this complex world. Let me introduce. I'll break my talk in or my suggestions or my thoughts in terms of three parts. I'll just introduce the topic and the challenges, and then I'll go on to being us, being human beings, and how we can internal and external harmony can be established, and then talk a little bit about the digital transformation and how this corporate world can embrace justice for peace. We live in a very rapidly evolving world, and the future generation will also inhabit a very completely different world, given that, which is better than the current one. We keep evolving, as you all can see, but hopefully a better world which is more equitable and peaceful, which is what we all would wish for. However, there are a lot of headwinds that may affect peace, and arguably justice suffers depend on how you implement and how would you like to define it as you go forward. We as individuals are a lot more troubled today than earlier and less content with our work, our life, our relationships, and overall growth that we seem to or perceive to be chasing and achieving. Let me take a pause. We always are saying this is right, this is wrong. Right and wrong and just and fair may sound or may be similar or may seen as the same thing, but they are very little in terms of being binary. It's not like 0 and 1. And there is a need for some nuance to be really operate in the world which is currently gray, especially whether it's business world, whether it is navigating human beings across different corporates, bureaucracy, government, establishment, people on different strata of socioeconomic category. You're dealing with people and gray. That is the current capitalist model in which we all try and chase maximizing returns, either at the personal level or at a corporate level. And the question is, how do we achieve justice for peace in such a complex corporate world where growth, we all need growth, right? Personal growth, want to go up high in your job, want to become from a graduate, undergraduate to a graduate, to an engineer, to a postgraduate, then be able to contribute, innovate. I mean, every sphere of life, there is growth. And similarly, corporates also want growth. But then growth can be seen as a very necessary evil. You need growth, but growth at what cost? Finally, with great technological innovations, such as AI, the digital transformation that has taken place all across the globe in the last decade, there are important questions, both ethical and practical, that humanity must find an answer, as the ramifications are huge. We find it great, instant gratification is wonderful, but what are the ramifications of this on individuals? And that's pretty important for us to realize. Through today's talk, I will try and connect these strands together so that there is some kind of, the whole objective is just to share my thoughts and feedback, but more importantly to share it with all the enlightened audience out here, much more knowledgeable and better than me, but more importantly to share what I feel, well, I said currently where I am and see the world at large. So whether we can create some mid path to achieve a little bit of justice for peace or peace for justice and be able to navigate in this complex world while we go about doing our daily lives, while corporates go about doing their business, people chasing profit, personal chasing growth, manifestations of, jealousy, pride, ego, working in a professional environment, one-upmanship, the entire startup environment where people want to raise money, create valuations, but then don't have responsibility and accountability. So all of these are interlinked when we talk for justice, for peace. Then I will also recommend some suggestions from my end as to how we can set up a bottom-up approach, sort of starting with self, which is Atman, our own self, because our own self have to change. And then that is the internal environment, I call it, internal harmony, and then the external environment. So what are the challenges that today we have? Humanity has tried and tested multiple economic models like capitalism, socialism, communalism. It's in operation in various parts of the globe, and which merely works on, earlier we used to have barter system where we used to have exchange of goods, and that's how the whole monetary policy of the globe came up. And now we are talking about that was based on trust and fair exchange of goods and services. Why I'm bringing that up is, age-old trust and fairness which was existing is slowly getting converted to various process procedures, but then may not then really be promoting justice and fairness as we go along, because it's all in the mind and how we implement those things. Some of the modern forms in various countries, which includes, as I said, capitalism and socialism or communism, is common across various parts of the world. Now, capitalism has a lot of cheerleaders, but it is obvious that in today's era, unprecedented growth is given as a given, because people would chase growth, because you've got developed economies, emerging economies, and then economies which need to grow. So every country is out there to ensure that they go from, to a positive GDP growth. So which means they need to have more infrastructure, more digitization, more development, more job creation in their own country, because they all want to contribute and grow. Innovation on top of it has been a big enabler to be able to achieve this growth all over the world. And obviously it has benefited a lot for the current generation as compared to the previous generation. We all are beneficiaries of this innovation. So we are at a unique point where many material desires of ours has been satisfied by these innovation and technological solutions as compared to the earlier era. And actually we continue to progress on this material progress or growth process, as we call it. Everything right from gadgets provide efficiency, convenience, to apps which give you quick insta gratification. Then, you've got e-commerce, quick commerce, e-commerce platforms, click and buy, click and feel, click and do things, watch movies, promote yourself. All this is available in a 10 to 20 minutes. Earlier, we had to make an effort to be even able to go and get it or satisfy our need. An added factor is the increase in disposable income. What has it led to? Increased consumerism, which means increased consumerism is also a very good sign. Like for India, consumerism is leading to growth, as you see the markets, as you see the establishment. But at the same time, consumerism leading to growth at any cost, I will win at any cost, also leads to different practices being followed. However, the question remains, has greed gone very high up in the order? Is the quest for material desires will always be never ending? Ambition and hunger will continue to go, and probably to some extent they are necessary evil, because as I say, anything given free is not valued. To create impact, also you need to give something that people will value. So for that, there has to be a balance between democratic behavior, materialistic attitude to go and get it, and at the same time, we also have this huge responsibility of ensuring peace and justice, or the way you do it. While greed always will be infinite, our Earth's natural resources are not. Human desires are more, and putting them an unnatural stress on our Earth's. I'm looking at a climate change fund, so we talk about air, water, and soil, and then people should also have some sustainable environmental goals. This is detrimental to global peace, as this could lead to conflict. We have witnessed a lot of geopolitical tensions in the last couple of years across various regions in the world. The issues are multiple, and they have had impact because the Ukraine conflict put a lot of pressure on commodity prices. Inflation then again hurts people. It finally gets passed on to the last chain of people who can afford, who cannot afford. Oil increase, pressure increase, price increase, inflation. So what remains are some primal natures in the human emotions such as pride, greed, ego, which leads to these conflicts. And if we have some form of control on this, probably we could not avoid, maybe moderate them as we go forward. The corporate sector has also witnessed its share of ruthless growth, and it is like winning at any cost, which means ethical, unethical, fighting competition, because there you are fighting your battle to be there up to win, whether it's the stock market, whether you want growth, whether your market cap has to go up. This is widespread right from top, where we have seen multiple series of corporate leaders defraud. You have seen a lot of scams hitting the newspapers. People are taking public money, use it for personal. I mean, I'm talking about the rich and powerful, the stakeholders. And what happens is this gets widely spread. A lot of people now, even for people who are not able to afford socioeconomic category B and C, you also missell. Financial institutions missell products. Educational counseling missells educational products. And most of them, if you see, are taking advantage of people's desire for a better life. So you see there's a contradiction, there's a conflict. We want to have a better life, which means growth. Growth means consumerism, consumption growth. At the same time, we take advantage of that basic greed and fear to be able to grow. The biggest example of greed is the stock markets, and the biggest example of a business born out of fear is the insurance business, right? We insure ourselves because we fear death. So even fear, such emotions can be converted into a business model. In any cases, these challenges are widespread, and there is an urgent need for course correction by all stakeholders involved. You, me, common man, the corporate world, businessman, etc. Are these problems insurmountable? My view is no, not really. Because we can actually run around and be able to think through. Run around, I mean, is in their minds, in our approach, and be able to fix. So what is the way ahead? When the Sri Hari sent the concept note of peace conference, I loved the message which says that justice is what everyone wants and peace is what everyone needs. Now it's a very well-coined statement. To achieve harmony and stability, my view is that both the two concepts have to be synchronized. So on that context, let me talk about a very small example of, the trinity of Vacha, Karmana. I had spoken about this even in the last conference, a couple of years back. That is, to start off achieving internal harmony. As I told you earlier, now I'm coming to saying how we achieve internal harmony, and then we are able to externalize the same in the world that we work or the people that we impact. I firmly believe that mind, body, and soul should be in harmony. I observed that patience and tolerance is something which has gone down over the years across people. You see, even in a family, if you don't have tolerance, and then if you can't tolerate someone, everyone is not perfect. Out of 10, you have got, that's why they match even when you marry the horoscopes and say 6 out of 10, 9 out of 8. But in real life, I think people have to be more used to more forgiveness. But it was there in the earlier times. That's why marriages were more stable. Today, its tolerance level is slight. It's my way or the highway. So forgiveness in earlier times, but a byproduct of the current are that even relationships have become very stressful, transactional. That's also contribution by the digital world and stuff like that. Emotional volatility is too high. People at young ages, I do mentor a lot of people. I run F1 where I have a lot of startup entrepreneurs. I also teach in colleges whenever I have time, or I generally mentor young students, and I see a lot of stress at psychological levels. What's the reason? The reason is because of the current pivot of the world, which has moved towards more, which is looking at, all the complexities that you're dealing with. There are many factors responsible for this, as it is complex, but the fact remains that consistent and at peace with our own self will help maintain emotional resilience. and we will all be better prepared to take on the life's challenges, because that is what is very important. What I see is, oh, I am very much followed on the Facebook, but but on one particular area, my friend beats me more to it. Oh, I am in class 10, I am in class 12, I am very good in maths, but I am not getting the due recognition. These are all peer pressure. These are all pressures that you face. Parents put a lot of pressures because it's a very competitive world, and we actually. So what happens is, in your mind, you are able to divert the progress that the child or the youth or our own selves are trying to desire and achieve, and that puts that external pressure, and that external pressure slightly deviates the way you think. That creates more amount, or that creates the connotation for what is fair, just. Oh, it is not fair to me. Oh, life is not fair to me. We hear this. That's your perspective. It's internal. So this trinity of vacha, karmana, and manasa is what you say. Vacha is speech, karmana is action, and mind, body, and soul. So you always have to have these three holistic thing in sync to achieve a wellness in your mind. Now, I will go on to the next topic, which is essentially in the corporate world. Before that, in the corporate world, also more rational behavior and more upfront and a honest transactional approach of embodying these three principles will help a lot of professionals, senior CEOs, COOs, managers to achieve what they want to achieve. It's not an individual who wins, it's only the team which wins. Individuals can be extremely intelligent. Over years, I've been debating, is intelligence is the critical success factor, or hard work is the critical success factor? And as an honest confession, I used to always think, intelligence scores over from my school days, etc. till now. And in the last 12 years, I figured out that if you're intelligent and if you put a little bit of hard work, you do become successful. But if you're hard work, there is no way you can fail, because you may attempt it 10 times, the 11th time you will get it right, and then you will get it right so immaculately that you will be successful. It's like an heart surgeon, practice makes you perfect, right? So, on top of the list today, if you look at psychologists and human behavior people, hard work comes as the most important critical success factor. You can compensate for intelligence by being hard work. And that's something which I am humbled to say that, I have to accept the last 12 years. And I think that is the real thing. I mean, I just gave that as an example, not that it was, but it really makes less, because, most of the time in the corporate world, you start doing performance appraisal, you look at people, and, sometimes people achieve outcomes without really putting in work, but people who have worked hard but don't reach those outcomes. But you only reward people based on outcomes. So, the way you behave or you appraise alters the behavior of the others, because that is what then it's intertwined with fairness and justice, and that's where the corporate world has to contribute. Now, the other concept for internal harmony is also, apart from the manasa, vacha, and karmana synchronization in individual, is minimalism and sustainability. What I mean by minimalism is, it can say conflict to growth and consumerism, but minimalism is one which will sort of, apart from achieving internal harmony, it also curbs unprecedented desire for more and more. The more you have unprecedented desire for more and more, I firmly believe that you will be on this path of, achieving that, and that sort of like a horse blinds you out. Minimalism is a simple concept where, if you understand it, it is getting rid of the clutter in your mind, clutter across in your house. We all do. I am also a culprit. My wife is also, we have so many things all around our place. And finally, the clutter makes you think in a different direction. It becomes more and more. So if you are able to declutter your life, not only in terms of material things, but also your mind, because I believe that what you think and what you eat makes your body perfect. And this body is what is vesting in the soul is vested in the body. So it's equally important, the body and the soul. So you need to take care of it. And to take care of it, you need to have clean mind, decluttered, and where do you put maximum fat? On your stomach. So obviously you take care of what you eat. If these two things are done, I think you get rid of maximum amount of diseases that you would have. So the minimalistic approach is saying that, sometimes you don't get what you want, and that may be good for you. Like Dalai Lama said, I'll quote, said that not getting what you want is sometimes wonderful stroke of luck. Probably that teaches you many things, or that would have been detrimental for you. What you want is a desire, right? At that point in time. And look at the instant gratification generation that you have around you because of this digital. If you cook a great cake, you want to put it on because you want people to appreciate it. Instant gratification is dangerous because then you move on because your mind has already gone on to the next thing. So everyone projects the best version of themselves to the outside world. Why? Because they want recognition. Their pride is satisfied, their ego is massaged. Which is fine. Recognition is necessary because it's also, recognition is a form of encouragement. But beyond a certain point of time, it becomes feeding into your ego. Whether it is good or bad, I am not making any judgment calls here. But what I am trying to say is that may not then make me work towards being just and fair. Because just and fair is very different from right and wrong, from what I want, what I desire. What I want and what I get made me very successful, but then was being very successful at any cost was the reason to be just and fair. The answer could be a little different for different people as you pivot towards your life. So minimalistic approach and then having a concern for sustainability is also very important. A lot of founders, I give you a very relevant example in my world. I also run a venture capital fund as the moderator explained, and it's an impact fund. So we follow the sustainable goals and we invest in companies which follow sustainability. I encourage entrepreneurs to be more sustainable, which is impact driven. But a lot of companies have come out and, all these startup founders have raised a lot of monies by creating large valuation by saying, I got so much of cash burn, I got so much of strikes, digital, in fulfilling some need or desire which may or may not have been in the right direction. And they have gone about, after raising money, in spending so much on business development, travel, business class, etc., they all gone far. So what has got lost? Lot of productive money which could have gone to create and develop a certain cultural exchange amongst people through a product or service that the startup could have initially started off, has burnt a lot of productive money and wasteful expenditure, and a lot of people have written off. So that's an example of how minimalism can also help you in your corporate world, in your journey towards your business, your success, everything. If you have this minimalistic and sustainability attitude, it also helps you to evaluate all these things better. So now in such a case, minimalism and sustainable behavior would have helped. But unfortunately, what happened? It harmed all stakeholders because you lost money. Then the other guy is not going to put money. So while I suggested some of these measures for internal peace and harmony, now there are many more that can be adopted by individuals and corporate leaders to be able to have a sustainable behavior and move towards more rational thinking, which is, instead of saying right and wrong, they can say, okay, we are human beings, you may have done this in your weaker moment, but then you're generally a just person. So you can move towards being just and fair. Whether you're doing a business, whether like we say, doing a business of alcohol is right or wrong, or maybe eating this is wrong. But these are all about being judgmental. So if you can remove being judgmental while you decide right and wrong, then you are moving towards being just and fair. I mean, that's what creates that environment for you to be just and fair. Now, in the corporate world, what are the nuances for you to navigate towards being just and fair? Some of the points that I was writing down yesterday night while I was thinking through about my own journey and the way I have dealt with people. Inner peace is a requirement. We must be cognizant of the fact that we are at peace and we think what is sustainable and what is doable with people and business around you. We have equilibrium to deal with it. Right and wrong and just and fair need not be synonymous. They have to be really work together in a synergistic manner with each other. And it's based on situation, because I always thought in a situation you immediately jump up and say, oh no, this is right, this is my way. This is absolutely wrong. Why? Because we have ingrained those over years saying that this is wrong, if somebody does this, this is the way we have to react. But if you pause for a moment and then say what is just and fair and not be judgmental about it, then you probably hit the right solution. It may not be a perfect solution, but it could be a just and a fair solution, which could be justice for peace for justice, as you would like to put it. Because then if you let that get scaled up, then it leads to, could lead to violence, could lead to change in the mental attitude. So you're doing a lot of permanent damage. So justice and fairness in your decision-making process would help you to think through properly in any given situation, including business, which obviously involves people and infrastructure, materials and resources. So there are certain things like if I go and a thief, there is a Robin Hood and there is a normal thief. Now Robin Hood is, people say, is a great guy because he robs the rich and teaches the poor. But robbing is it a right or a wrong act? It's a wrong act. But you put on the lens of justice and fairness, so folklore say that, oh, he is a good man. So, in a society at large, you need to be able to be not a corporate raider, but at the same time help growth, but the process, the systems and the way you culturally build your teams and achieve those progress, it can't be growth at any cost. It has to be growth with profits at certain sustainable levels. It has to be sustainable growth and profits. If you replace growth at any cost to sustainable growth and profits in the corporate world and convert your mindset while dealing with people, resources, everything, you achieve that. Probably you will achieve that kind of a mindset. I'll give you an example on, especially on the right and wrong and just and fair, and it's about the world and my world. We all live in the world as you construe in your mind. We'll say, hey, how do you look at this world? Oh, this world has got my house here, my station here, I have to go to work, this is my friends. That's your world, right? So I'll give you a nice example. That is in Mount Kailasha, Lord Shiva and Parvati were sitting and enjoying the nature thing. And they had Ganesha and Kartikeya, their two sons, sitting with them. Lord Narada walks in. And he walks in with a very beautiful, ripe, nice mango, the fruit, and gives it to Parvati. And says, there's only one fruit. He says you can only give it to one person. Now Parvati has to choose between both her sons, whether to give it to Ganesha or to Kartikeya. So Narada then suggests, why don't we have a small competition to see who should get this fruit, the mango. Let's call the fruit as the divine fruit of the mango. Parvati and Shiva look at each other because they don't know how to sort this out. Both are their sons. So Narada says, whoever goes around the world 3 times and who comes first back to Mount Kailasha, the world is, which is the 3 universes, whatever. He just said the word. And Kartikeya looked at Ganesha and said, this the guy with the pot belly and sitting with his mouse cannot run faster than me. I have got the peacock with me. So Kartikeya accepts. So Kartikeya immediately sets on his peacock, goes down the earth, the universe, the stars, the moons and the Patal Lok and comes back. Now Ganesha starts wondering what he should do. He goes and comes back after doing 3 rounds of his mother and father who were sitting there only in the Mount Kailash, which hardly took him few minutes. He finishes that and sits where he has been sitting. By the time Kartikeya has zoomed up and come back, he's obviously got powers, he's got the peacock with him. Now, it is time for the prize to be distributed. That is the divine fruit. So, Kartikeya, the prize was given to Lord Ganesha. Now, somebody would wonder why, because Kartikeya was very angry. He said, how I did the whole world, this guy didn't move from the Mount Kailasha, how did he get the fruit? But it's a concept. Ganesha said, my world, in my definition, my world was my father and mother, which is Lord Shiva and Parvati. So I went around them 3 times. You asked us to go 3 times around the world. So my world consisted of only my father and mother. And he went around 3 times around his father and mother. And then he said, I have finished the condition and I came first. I came to and sat down in this place quickly. Whereas Kartikeya went around the world. the universe, the moon. So he was fast. He was obviously faster than Ganesha. But then that was the world that he construed in his mind, the material world, the world that existed. And Ganesha very calmly figured out that his world was his mother and father. So there is a difference between my world and the world. And that's what happens to every individual. If you bring it into context, every corporate, a corporate in FMCG, consumer, a pharma limited company, everyone has to deal with different regulations. They have got the world that they construe as my world. And once you understand that, then there is this right and wrong and being just and fair are concepts which can be married, right? And we can look at it in a different manner. So the story illustrates that nothing is that simple. There are different interpretations based on different thought process. So that's why I say don't be judgmental. Look at the context. Be contextual, and then we decide what is right, wrong, or what is just and fair. For example, should all employees be given raise by the management if they are doing well? It is subjectivity then creeps in. Somebody would have worked hard, as I told you earlier, and not achieved his outcome. Somebody would have achieved his outcome but must not, like sales targets are very clear, objective, I can define. Whereas, it's a constant struggle. So these are the struggles where this concept of just and fairness or right and wrong creeps in. And then that's how we need to navigate those. Like, resource allocation, investing, creating new businesses. I've gone through all of them, dealing with farmers while acquiring land, building infrastructure. There are different connotations and you have to take decisions accordingly. In this context, let me also say, I was reading an Harvard Business Review article and 2 cases about downsizing of employees happened. Now we read a lot of articles where, Swiggy's, a lot of people are downsizing, startups became unicorns or people are losing jobs. Company had to downsize and spent a lot of money because they gave a lot of severance pay to their workers. But the managers never communicated the reasons behind that downsizing or why. So the process was not implemented. So at the end of it, the people lost morale, and even the existing employees who were retained at high salaries were not very happy because the morale went down. Whereas company B, which was downsizing and probably paid less severance package, kept on constant communication, the reasons, and were very transparent. So there probably they sort of, the morale was not affected and the company could get over the layoffs and then again started on the growth path. Now in these 2 cases, while the company has spent a lot of money, it didn't follow something else. So it doesn't necessarily mean only money can achieve high morale. There is something more than money. Yesterday I was talking to someone who was talking about life lessons, and he was talking about wealth. Being just rich is fine. You can still be rich if you leave some amount of money, which means it's in the room there are all people who are actually wanting to make money in financial investment, and this 1 hour of life lessons taught across 90 countries, across different tribes, talked about being rich, which means being happy with what you have and having a smile on your face is much more richer than having lots of money. And so that was the more concept. There could be richness is defined, like you wonder, you have wisdom, and those things help you to be rich in terms of how you can help others. That's being rich. You have some qualities that make each unique DNA, each human being in this globe has some life lessons and stories, and that if you accumulate all of them, that adds to your wisdom. Being intelligent and being wise are 2 different things, and that's like how being right and wrong and being just and fair. So having said that, now let me move on to the current problem that we have, AI and humanity. AI has thrown up a lot of great solutions and challenges too. Now, another burning question is, with advances made in AI, obviously there's a lot of betterment, but it's going to replace a lot of blue-collar jobs, repetitive tasks. So is that just and fair? Or people have to get reskilled? Is that some amount of pain is going to be there, right? Because 80% in India, you can say 70% are still socioeconomic category C and below. And skilling is a very important job. So what's going to happen with AI? Already you've got digital transformation hitting people. So AI is going to make that much more. Life will be more convenient, but then it's going to cause a lot of damage across. More advanced robots will take over. Another issue that who benefits most from AI? Only the top 5%. The richer will become more richer and richer because that's how it is. So again, you have to think about organization, globe, country, economic conditions, and how you want to place it. Morocco, South Africa, whichever word, India, emerging markets, developing nations. Another AI bias is, for example, in a MIT AI tool, one MIT student observed that facial recognition, for example, the AI has been trained only to recognize white skin. So every time for AI, you have to put on a white skin on your face to be able to make it recognize. And that was something which there was AI bias, as they call it. Because you train AI, right, with data. Lastly, even deep fakes. Now, deep fakes, for example, if you create a deep fake of mine speaking here or of forget me, of very important people, and then you, like elections, and somebody says something, it can cause colossal damage. So deep fakes and how to get rid of deep fakes and security measures around that is also something. These are all relevant from the topic that we are discussing because justice and fairness is also evolving. So as you pivot towards all these new things that's happening in the corporate place, you need to play a role on justice and fairness. Now, let me conclude by saying all these are tricky situations with no straight right or wrong answers. It's something that we need to evolve. We need to sort of, figure out how we deal with each of these situations. And that's where, it becomes that much more important. It's important to work on internal peace. It's important to work and encourage individuals to develop those kind of internal harmony and then start developing external harmony with the sustainability, AI, humanity, and the minimalistic approach and, having a fairness and justness in your behavior. It's very easy to say, it's very difficult because I'll tell you an example. I run Pegasus, which is an impact fund. For 6 months to a year, I had to run it on 3 principles. And I was saying that I will invest without fear and greed. It's a very difficult statement because the very basic principle of investing is to make more money, right? When you run an impact fund, if you want to invest without fear and greed, you have to be very transparent and transactionally clear. All data on the table. And I want impact also. So I'm saying I'll have investment metrics, but at the same time, I also want impact metrics. The next principle was any money given free is not value. Because even if you want to do a good job or run an NGO, people get used to free money and then they are not able to convert themselves. So you really don't get the impact. Take the example of the car Nano. Tata's launched it saying it's the most cheapest car. It's actually a great wonder at 1 lakh and 1 lakh 20. At that time they launched it for a lakh of rupees. But even my driver who can't afford a motorcycle will say, I won't buy it because it's a cheap car. It's the mindset. It's not only in India and especially in the Asian context. It's a very cheap car. Whenever I have the money, but if I can afford it, I'll buy a better car. So it just got to do something with the cultural mindset. So launching Nano as the cheapest car was the greatest marketing blunder. Whereas it's doing well in Europe, in Canada, etc., where old people use Nano cars. It's easy to park. It's got a good export market. So it's all about how you think, like greed, fear, and then how people take advantages like corporates and create businesses out of it. But then you should not miss-sell. There is an opportunity, use it to the extent possible and don't say, winner takes it all. So I think this social order to develop over time is something which we all are responsible as each one of us. And as we grow up in this ladder and to create a better world tomorrow in a very digitally transformed global scenario, it becomes that much more important and pertinent for each one of us to be able to put in the little bit of justice and fairness in the way we think about everything. There's nothing wrong in going out and creating companies, organizations, talent, innovation. How you do it, how you build in a little bit of justice and fairness in the way you do it in the corporate world will become very important for us as we go along this way. So the last few things that come to my mind as I close this is, Jeff Bezos once quote, if you are competitor focused, you have to wait until the other guy does something so that you try to do better than him. But if you are customer focused, you continue to focus on what you want to deliver the best, you continue on your journey. So this is a very sound concept, it's like self-motivated way of trying to do the right things. And I think I took it because it is very relevant to the corporate world and for corporate leaders and corporate managers who work, which is bulk of our population, and they need to practice this in their outcomes. I define three things. One is you should create value propositions both in your personal life and in your professional life. You should be very outcome and efficiency effective. Efficiency is fine, but if you're effective, then you're outcome based. And third is you have to be not judgmental. And create internal harmony for yourself. If these three things are done, and if you both, then there are this question of ethical practicality. All of this will come in automatically, and that's my view on on justice and justice for peace in the corporate world, and which is achieved through internal and external harmony and a balance between those two. And I thought these are some of the thoughts that I could share with all of you. Hopefully, it was useful to you. It was also a reiteration to my own self. And I thank you for patiently giving me a ear on this topic. Thank you very much.